The internet has done something so amazing where we can get information so fast. So what can we do to create distance and space, but also use that internet to be connected to our goals?
Hi, welcome to Digital Woes podcast, a podcast by students discussing mental health issues in online spaces. I'm Tim Perkin.
I'm Kayla Patterson.
I'm Lauren Hoyings.
I'm Hannah Tracy.
So we wanted to talk about the way that we interact with online spaces, particularly on conventional social media, how we use it, and how that relates to the way that we live, the way that we feel as college students. Lauren, you were saying that you'd deleted your Instagram.
I actually deleted my Instagram, Snapchat, Visco. I deleted those when I was a senior in high school. I was about to say in college, but that's
okay.
right now.
Oh, wow, that's early.
Okay.
My Instagram consisted of pictures of my ex, just us doing all the things together. And when that was over, I was just ready to delete everything and to breathe and to not have all of the comparison. For all of those reasons, I deleted my Instagram, realized that likes weren't as big of a deal as I thought they were.
So there were a lot of personal reasons in your life. Mm-hmm. Were there specific things about that environment that made those things worse? And how do you feel about not being on Instagram now after so much time has passed?
Yeah, actually, I was just stalking people on Instagram yesterday. I like to look at celebrities' Instagrams, but on Instagram, I don't feel the need to have one anymore. I don't feel the need to take pictures and try to impress people with the things that I have or that I don't have. I don't know. It feels really great to not care about it. There are so many people I'm surrounded by right now that just spend their time staring at their phone when I'm just trying to have a conversation with them. And you're not here and you're not present. So I find that just social media just takes away personal connection that I really want. I really want in college. I really want just in life. Be here in this moment and just enjoy it.
Kayla and Hannah, I want to hear what social media you two have, if any.
All right, so I have most of the social media accounts that pretty much everyone has: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. I think I probably spend a lot more time on Instagram, and Lauren, like what you said, how you don't feel that obligation anymore. Mm-hmm. I honestly wish I was at that point because being a member of a sorority, it's a very, very big deal to publicize yourself, trying to recruit other girls and stuff like that I feel almost obligated to have that account because of that whole organization that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And I love the relationships that I have with those girls. I will tell you that most of the girls who are part of some sort of organization like that on campus have at least 1,000 followers. It is normality. It is a normality. And when girls start bringing up the fact that you only have like 800, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't even talk to that many people on a regular basis. I don't think really anyone does. And if they do, I find that really strange. But I will tell you, I did have that issue when I first joined. Everyone starts following you. You gain an instant 200 followers all in one morning, and it's so overwhelming that I wanted to chuck my phone at a wall because my phone would not stop going off. I started to care a lot about the numbers, unfortunately. I was paying attention to when it would go down, when it would go up, and, that instant gratification, that feeling, I needed to feed off of it, quite literally, and it got very, very unhealthy. I was thinking that I was forming those relationships with people just because they were following me, when really, that's not really a relationship at all.
Yeah.
It becomes numbers for everybody.
Exactly.
Quantity over quality.
Exactly. I started paying attention to likes. It was just all numbers to me. It was all a numbers game. And it's just not healthy.
Are you noticing it now, or when did you notice that was a problem?
Oh, I noticed it was a problem when I started to, those apps where you can it's like those, I think, the social media apps where you can track who's unfollowed you and who's liked your posts, who stalks. It got to the point where I was downloading that app Every time I noticed I lost a follower because I wanted to know exactly who it was, because I took it personally. I took it way too personally when I should not have.
I used to do that too.
And that has the possibility of becoming extremely toxic for all parties involved.
Exactly. I had to delete the app off my phone. I think I deactivated my account for a little while. I'm back on, of course, since then because I still feel that obligation to have it. However, I don't use it as often as I used to.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like your relationship with social media has gotten healthier?
Oh, a lot healthier. Very much so. I have those apps where you can like
moderate your time on it?
Yes, you can moderate your time. You can set your phone to a certain time where like you can't open the app anymore. If I'm doing homework, it'll stop me,
Something that they just started doing is tracking how much time you spend on an app. But once they started doing that, I started noticing, oh my gosh, how much time we spend, or how much time I would spend just focusing on other people's lives. Like, oh, who has the prettiest dress to whatever, or who's having the best time on these college vacations and spring break, and who has the nicest looking bikini. But people post those things, and that was hard. And I know for our little man in the room, that's not, I guess, so you haven't really ever had social media.
I never have, which was always kind of countercultural. The reason that I did it was not expressly related to mental health, but that was a concern. Most of us, if not all of us, are young enough that we grew up with Facebook being an entity and something that we were aware of. And, like for me, a lot of my friends had Facebook accounts before you were even supposed to be allowed to have a Facebook account. But even as a kid, I was a bit cautious about that because first I had privacy concerns, which proved to be valid at the time with Facebook. I just knew so many people who had it and hated it. Like, people would say, yeah, I have Facebook. It's terrible. And so why would I then make a Facebook account? I didn't have enough friends to connect to on there anyway, so I didn't really have much of a use for it. But that doesn't mean I don't use social media in an unhealthy way sometimes. I think that I have a healthier relationship with social media than a lot of my peers, but I have a anonymous Twitter account, and sometimes I spend too much time on it.
Here's my question for you. What do you look at on this anonymous Twitter?
I'm on a few different areas in Twitter. I got on Twitter to follow YouTubers, which is my primary time-wasting space.
Same.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I'm on politics Twitter. I'm on art Twitter. I'm not like very on Twitter, but like I'm on Twitter enough. I don't follow like hundreds of accounts or anything like that, and I'm certainly not followed by hundreds of accounts, but it's very easy to spend time on those platforms. I'd avoided Twitter for a long time until I finally rationalized getting it because I had such a strong anti-social media stance, and whether or not that was a good decision is still up in the air.
I'm kind of like you, Tim, in that at this point in my life, I only really ever use anonymous social media accounts. So my main go-tos are Twitter, Reddit, and Tumblr, and I absolutely have an internet addiction. But I've largely veered away from things like Facebook. Like you, Kayla, I only recently got Snapchat, and I only use it to message my friends at this point. I actually had to delete my Facebook last year because I had a cyber stalker. And I was dealing with really bad depression and anxiety at this point in my life. And so anytime this person would come in and start messaging me and like trying to figure out my location and trying to figure out what I was doing at every minute of the day, I would have actual anxiety attacks. And it was the most unsettling thing. There was one point where I felt genuinely unsafe when this person messaged me and went, "I'm at your school. Where are you?" And so at that point, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to get rid of this now and cut this person out of my life.
That's a really good point just about social media. There are so many good things about social media that you can connect to your family. You can connect to people that you haven't connected to, but that's also something that's a downside of social media is that people you do not want to communicate with, people that you would like to cut out of your life are there. And you can choose when they want to come back into your life. Like my ex, after I block them, they'll call me through a blocked number. So you can't get away from those people. There are people that should be out of your life. They have their place. They come and they go. And when they come back, social media just kind of forces them to come back, or you're forced to see what they're doing. You're forced to see when they get engaged, where you go to school, where you are, what you're doing, what your accomplishments are. You see all of those things. And I don't know if that's a good thing for some people. Sometimes it's good, the cheering on. And sometimes it's like, I don't want them to be successful because I'm angry at them. So I guess what's your experience with that?
The beauty of the internet is it allows us to connect with anybody. But the downside of the internet is it allows anybody to connect with us. Mm-hmm. And for me with this cyberstalker, that was terrifying because all the things you just described about having that impulse to obsessively look at your exes, what they're doing, what's going on, that is what this person was doing to me, only in the most direct way. They were actually inserting themselves into my life, commenting on things that they had that had absolutely nothing to do with them and making it about them and making me feel anxious and unsafe and scared. And I mean, because of this, honestly, I stopped looking at a lot of people who had just stopped being a part of my life because I started realizing this isn't good for me to do, and it's not good to do it to them. I've seen the other side of this sort of obsessive behavior, and I don't want to be a part of it. And when your mental health is already in a really low place, being surrounded by people who are either appearing to be perfect 24/7 or being surrounded by people who will not leave you alone, it just wears you down over time. And when I was really depressed, it was so bad for me. And I remember just this sense of relief when I completely cut it out of my life and I took a break from everything. It was one of the best decisions I could have made. Obviously, there's some downsides that I'm still dealing with. My work only posts the schedule on Facebook, so I have to actually contact the manager every time he posts the schedule because there's no other way for me to get to it because our society has become so reliant on it. But honestly, I would much rather do this than surround myself in this environment where it's just all kinds of negative on all sides.
At the heart of my rejection of social media was that you're making media of yourself. That's what social media is. You're performing. And there were different ways in which that made me uncomfortable because one, it's not normal to live as a performance. That doesn't seem like a healthy way of thinking about yourself socially in general. But that extends to the privacy issue because when you're making content about yourself, and when you're on social media, you can't help but make content about yourself, even if you're not posting photos every day or videos. It's very hard to control who actually sees that content, even on platforms that are operated ethically. And I think that we all know that a lot of these platforms have not consistently been ethical in a lot of different ways, from not disclosing your information to what you're shown, the media that you're actually given, and how that affects the way you look at the world, and the way that your content is being shown to other people. It's designed for the purpose of making that amateurly created media successful. So it's going after really personal emotional manipulation. And it shouldn't be surprising that platforms that make their money that way even if they do useful things for a lot of people, that those platforms are going to often negatively impact a lot of their users.
That makes me sad.
Well, let's talk about some of the positives then.
Yeah.
In the world that we live in now, in the stressful world where social media takes all of our privacy away and we're objects and we compare ourselves to others, what are the things that we do that make us happy?
One of the things that I've found positive about being on social media anonymously after refusing to get on any of it for most of my life is really about encouraging other people. I don't know, like so much of Twitter particularly, because that's where I have experience, is so volatile and aggressive. But I've found a lot of like positive interactions by talking to artists or content creators and who are interested in making something and encouraging people. As someone who has some creative hobbies, being able to encourage someone else on a creative pursuit and discuss creative ideas online outside of my everyday life has been like a really positive experience outside of most of what's on Twitter, which is people yelling at each other about politics.
I recently have started engaging with a lot of my hobbies on social media a lot more. Like you, Tim, I have some creative things I want to do. I want to be a published author someday. And so I've been following a lot of writers on Twitter and literary agents and editors. I've been looking at fiction sites where people just post short stories and chaptered stories for fun. And weirdly enough, reading from people who are better than me, unlike looking at photos of people I admire, it doesn't make me feel worse. If anything, it encourages me to study what they're doing and incorporate it in my own work. And I don't know, I've started surrounding myself with people who make me happy and people who make me want to be better than I already am, rather than people who make me feel bad about myself.
There are so many people on the internet that we want to connect to for the reasons of, I want to see what they're doing because we went to high school together, and that comparison. People want to, like the negative comparison. I want to see what they're doing, where they're going, so that I can feel bad about myself. And as much as we say we don't do that, we do that as people because humanly, sometimes we just like to feel bad. But the fact that you say that you connect with people that inspire you to be better, the internet has done something so amazing where we can get that information so fast. We can get the information on how people have done what they have done, and people can talk to us explicitly, and you can get those conversations, and you can network with people you would not have the opportunity to network with if we did not have the social media that we have now. That's really uplifting. The internet's always going to be there. That's the world now. So what can we do to create distance and space, but also use that internet to be connected to our goals?
Okay, so wrapping this up quickly, what are a few practical ways that you've made social media a more positive experience for yourself?
I'd say I've become a lot more selective by who I follow. I've started following people that actually inspire me. Like being an African-American woman, following other people, following especially Black women that are doing really, really good things in the world and are doing just a lot of stuff in politics. I love following that because that gives me a lot of pride. That just makes me happy.
Well, for me personally, I try to be very conscious and aware of how much time I'm spending on things. I get this little report on my computer on how much time I'm spending on social media. It's trying to find what your priorities should be in college and where they should lie, and making sure that you're being mindful of it. And I think that's something that's so important. A lot of people can drown in scrolling, but taking the time to say, okay, is this getting me to where I want to be and who I want to be and all that stuffers.
I've stopped starting arguments on Reddit and Twitter. I'm learning to leave well enough alone. I'm just trying to think more consciously about, is this a productive conversation? Do I have a goal, or am I just trying to show off or win? And I think that mindset has helped me a lot.
For me, it's all about asking the question, is this making me happy? And I feel like it's similar to what Kayla said about being very selective about who I follow. But I feel like it's kind of a combination of what all three of you said. Are the people who I follow making me happy? Does spending more than a certain amount of time make me happy, or is it just sort of like serving as an escape? Does interacting with certain people, whether it's a specific conversation or an argument or a debate, does that make me happy? Does it serve a good purpose? And when I say happy, I don't just mean a momentary feeling of, oh, that felt good. I mean, is this going to make me happy in the long run? And I'm getting a lot better at, if something is bringing me down, just stepping away.
This has been Digital Woes, a podcast created by Virginia Tech students about mental health in online spaces. Thank you for listening.